haven't heard from one caller yet on the Holy Roller. Pretty surprised by that. 702-365-9200. If you were at that game, if you remember that game, if the Holy Roller had an impact in your life and you remember where you were at that time, we definitely want to hear from you. 702-365-9200. Jeff Sherman's going to join us on the other side with some gambling, sports gambling. Where you got a lot of big events coming up here. You know, he's been covering golf at a really heavy level. We have the Open Championship, the Scottish Open coming up here, but the NBA is in town. And last night I was at Wynn here in Vegas hosting my show from 4 to 7, and there were NBA players flying through the place, as that's one of the home hotels there. So you got the Olympic team that I want to mention and some of the gambling going forward. Jeff Sherman joins us on the other side as we're brought to you by Boyd Gaming, official partner of the Silver and Black. Get on in, locals, and head on out to any of their properties here and see what they're doing. Incredible partner of the Silver and Black. Boyd Gaming, as we look back at the top games in Raiders history, the Holy Roller we'll discuss before we get into our next game on the flagship of the Silver and Black. No idea what happened there. We were going great, and all of a sudden it kicked me out. I think it was an internet thing, so sorry about that.
When we play Keegan Bradley cut coming back?
No.
No.
Hey, dude, the thing that threw me off there, that you got to change different. You had this, like there were plays before the Holy Roller. The first one you had was the Holy Roller.
No, the first one I had was that first touchdown.
Okay. Because then it was stable to Bradshaw.
Yep.
That's what threw me up. I thought that was the Holy Roller. Yeah. Okay.
On Raider Nation Radio, 920 a.m.
All right. Sorry about that, everybody. We're back.
You want NBA coming back?
Yeah, for Jeff.
I got Paul George, LeBron talking about Bronny, or Steph Curry on Klay Thompson.
Let's do Steph.
Got it.
Plus, they feature one of the largest whiskey, scotch, and bourbon selections anywhere in the valley with live local entertainment.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know. That must have been the heat. I've never had the chat crap out and the feed go down. So,
you know, a lot of lawyers who advertise here don't even live here. If they say Nevada, they're not from around.
yeah, Vinny at 1:30.
Hey,
Yep.
our capital is Las Vegas. They're not from around here. I'm Richard
Yeah, we
Harris,
can do that
and I
game
am
again.
from Nevada.
Mhm.
I grew up here. I went to school here. I raised my family here. No one knows Nevada like we do. If you've been injured, call me, Richard Harris, of the Richard Harris Law Firm, 444-4444, just in case.
Collectors, Front Row Card Show is back at the Rio Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas on July 13th and 14th. Biggest show ever! Baseball, football, basketball, and hockey cards, plus Pokemon, Marvel, Star Wars, and comic books. SGC, Beckett, and CBCS won't be there. So bring your cards and comics to sell, trade, or get every
Wow, the Stones just announced 16 new dates.
Get out of here. Europe or America?
Saturday and Sunday, July 13th and 14th, 11 to 5. For more info, go to FrontRowCardShow.com. That's FrontRowCardShow.com.
Hey everyone, it's Joey from Sky Diamonds in Town Square. Did you know we pay top dollar for Rolexes and natural diamonds? We are also a full-service repair center for all your jewelry. Come to our beautiful showroom and sell your diamonds and Rolexes in
Maybe
a
this is
comfortable
old.
luxury store located in Town Square.
Finley Nissan is celebrating our first responders and nurses on Thursday, July 11th. Be a hero and come by the dealership early to donate blood from 10 to 2. Then later that afternoon at 5:30, meet VGK's newest player, Brendan Brisson, and get an autograph. Plus, you can score free tickets to Battle for Vegas. Take advantage of special deals on new Nissan.
All right, everybody. Apologize for that. Game on, cold beer for sure.
Caramel cookies and Buffalo Wild Wings. Don't miss First Responders Day on Thursday, July 11th at Finley Nissan Anderson in the Valley Auto Mall.
For over 20 years, the experts at LendingStore.com have provided consumers with quick access to lenders, and all credit types are welcome. Now, cash is as close as your phone and as soon as tomorrow. When you need cash, you need it now, so why wait? Got bills today? Get cash tomorrow. Visit LendingStore.com. Get the cash you need now. So visit LendingStore.com today for details. See website for details. Lending Store is not a lender and does not make credit decisions. Must be 18 years old and not available in all states.
Favorite Stones song is there's a few, but Gimme Shelter's one of them.
Register for Port Perch Rewards for free subs, free desserts, and more. Download or upgrade your PortaSubs app before August 31st and get a free small sub. Don't wait.
I'm a jumping jack flash guy.
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Hey, Tom, sweet ride.
Good, good. I got something for Jake in about a minute and a half. Okay?
Painted Black is nice when you hear it.
Did Tom get a raise? Did he win the lottery? Nah,
It
I
is
just got
a-
a sweet loan from One Nevada Credit Union. Smart move, Tom. Thanks. They have great terms, low rates, and
Steph
easy
Curry.
approval process. All I needed to do was find a sweet ride. Get a sweet loan for a sweet ride at onenevada.org. Federally insured by NCUA.
Not one call on the Holy Roller. That sucks. That really is shocking. That's shocking. That's why we're only going to do this if people interact, dude. I got a lot more to talk about, so we'll stay on this.
In-house, which means you get the best pool at the best price. We make the process easy by assigning you a project manager.
I think the next one's gonna be pretty good, that Pittsburgh game, the Woodson game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be pretty good. We got tons of stuff.
And we'll get started on your dream pool.
All right, Steph Curry.
Back to the JT the Brick Show.
Sherman's all set.
Commissarios Tequila, the official tequila of the JT the Brick Show.
Not having Clay, man, it still hasn't really sunk in just because you've been doing it for 13 years together. And Coach made a joke. Sometimes you can't really find Clay in the off seasons and you don't really hear from him as much. And then he shows up at training camp ready to go. I kind of have this idea that, October he'll still hey guys, what's up? But I know it's not happening.
That's Steph Curry. JT back with you. Tequila Commissario, the Ferrari of tequilas, are a proud partner of ours on the Raiders' top 10 games of all time. We'll get back to the Holy Roller and all the games that we're talking about. Jeff Sherman joins us, VP of Risk Management over at the Westgate. Jeff, before we get to some sports gambling topics, what's the property been like with the heat? I like to go in there and cool off. You've been here a while along with me, 120. We've never done 118 before. How's everything holding up?
Yeah, a lot of people wanting to get away too. They get inside and enjoy some beverages. And
Yes.
It's been steady busy, so it gets everyone inside instead of doing outside activities.
You got it. Let's start with the NBA free agency, and we saw DeMar DeRozan go to Sacramento. I think that's a big deal overall. Paul George going to Philadelphia. Last I talked to you, my Knicks were looking like they were the team with what they were doing. Let's talk about the odds here and what the favorites have done here and how that's changed since free agency began.
Yeah, well, the Celtics have been holding strong as a 3-1 favorite. No movement on them. They're returning their entire team. The three teams that you mentioned, starting with Sacramento, adding DeRozan, not much movement. They were 60-1 for the title, just went to 50. So there's still a lot of teams ahead of them in the pecking order. The large moves have been the 76ers and the Knicks, what you talked about. 76ers adding Paul George went from 12 to 8. Then we took some support for them at 8-1. Now they're 7-1. The Knicks were 14-1. They added Mikal Bridges. They went down to 9-1. Then we took some support for them, so now they're down to 8-1.
Okay.
And as we've been lowering those teams, we've been bumping other teams up like Denver, the Lakers, and the Clippers losing Paul George.
Let's go with the Lakers. Where do you have the Lakers? I'm surprised they've got nothing done in free agency. I thought that was the goal of LeBron James, to recruit some players and try to get him in there and to fit a narrative going forward that they were going to take a run. Where do you have the Lakers?
Yeah, they opened up 20-1. They eased up to 25, and then after, like you said, doing nothing during free agency or trades, they're up to 30-1. And if they continue to go through the summer without making any trades at all, they'll probably go up higher than that. But they're sitting 30-1 right now.
So no sharp money coming in at 30-1. You think people are waiting for 35 or maybe even 40-1?
Yeah, there
Wow.
usually is not sharp money on the Lakers. It's usually public money, and the sharps like to fade them and go under their season wins. And so it's I think that the public is going to wait for them to go higher to see how it transpires if they make any trades.
Let's go to the NHL, where kind of a disappointment for the Knights losing Marchessault. They let all their free agents go. But they've built a pretty good roster over the years and spent a lot of money. I want to give them a lot of credit for bringing in players, especially at the trade deadline, but not a lot of buzz. I wonder what the odds are for the Vegas Golden Knights going into next year.
Yeah, they were one of the co-favorites at 10-1, but losing 6 free agents are up to 16-1, so they've fallen out of the pecking order, which starts with Edmonton. Edmonton was 10-1, now they're 8-1. Then we have defending champion Florida at 10-1, along with Dallas and Colorado. Carolina, Rangers, and Devils are 12-1, so a few teams ahead of the Knights at 16.
Yeah, I look at that, and I know they're not done yet. I wonder what's going to happen at the trade deadline when the regular season comes back. All right, so for Bronny James, I've been really waiting to talk to you about this. Give me your big picture, your helicopter view overall about where he was drafted at 55 when a lot of people thought he wouldn't get drafted. Now that he comes in, it doesn't change anything with the Lakers and their season odds to win a championship. But Bronny James prop bets, long prop bets, what's that about?
Yeah, we thought, with all the buzz you get in the media on him, we'll put some things up where you can get interest throughout the whole season. And we put up a method of first basket. What's it going to be? Layup, 3-pointer, free throw. So there's odds on that. We have some achievable numbers, or maybe unachievable, depending how you put it. But will he score 20-plus points in any regular season game at 12-1 odds? Will he get 10-plus assists in any game, 60-1 odds? And 10-plus rebounds in any game at 25-1 odds.
Jeff Sherman is our guest over at the Westgate Superbook. So any large NFL Super Bowl wagers so far, considering we went through the draft and a little bit of free agency? Nothing really jumped out at me massive to look at Kansas City any differently. What are you seeing over at the Superbook?
Well, we had some people look at them differently. We just took 40,000 on them at 6-1 yesterday. So we're down to 5-1 on the Chiefs. We also took 15,000 on the Texans at 16-1. So we're down to 14-1 on Houston. They've been getting a lot of public support. At the same time that we lowered those teams, we had to raise some teams like Buffalo's up to 16-1, Dallas is up to 18-1. But notable moves have been Chiefs 6-5 and Houston 16-14.
Where we have our Vegas audience here with the Raiders. Where are the Raiders?
Still sitting at 100-1.
Raiders still sitting at 100-1. Finally, I know how much you love golf and setting odds. Today was a good day. I grew up 5 miles away from Bethpage Black, where they'll have the Ryder Cup, and with Keegan Bradley named the captain there. Very interesting. He's a solid guy. He wants to make the team on his own merit, plus his captain picks overall. He's a Boston guy, a Red Sox fan on Yankee soil, and I thought he handled that well at the introductory press conference. Big deal. A no-nonsense guy coming in to lead and be Captain America for the Ryder Cup next year.
Yeah, and the one thing I really like what he said is it doesn't matter where the golfers are playing. He'll take the 12 best, so you'll see some live golfers on the U.S. team, which, that'll probably entice the Europeans to do the same. So a little bit of incorporation there. But his method, it should be interesting and fun. It's a different pick. They asked Tiger to do it, and he declined. So going with Keegan Bradley was a little bit outside the box, but I think it's a good pick.
Lastly, open odds out in the distance here. Again, we've seen some powerful performances from Scotty Scheffler this year, and a couple of younger golfers now showing up with some of these lesser publicized tournaments. What's building up when it comes from an odds perspective for the Open?
Yeah, we're still sitting Scheffler, the obvious favorite, at 9-2, followed by McIlroy at 9-1, coming off his tough U.S. Open. Xander Schauffele at 14, Bryson at 14. Like you mentioned, young golfers, Davis Thompson coming off his first victory last week at the John Deere. He opened up at 150. He's already down to 100-1 for next week's tournament.
Great, Jeff. Stay hydrated. We'll talk to you soon. Appreciate you today.
Okay, thanks, JT.
Jeff Sherman over at the Westgate. Head on out there. The sharpest sports book in the world, the Westgate, the Superbook. Let's get out to Raiders 66, as he likes to jump in on the history of the Raiders here as we're looking at the Holy Roller. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I love that, JT. Thank you very much. Yeah, the Holy Roller, that was an immensely satisfying game for me. I was actually at the 49er game that weekend with a buddy of mine from high school. He's a huge Niner fan and a card-carrying Raider hater. And the people in front of us had one of those little Watchmans, and they were watching the Raider game and the Chargers. And all game long, my buddy is chirping on me like, the Chargers are kicking the Raiders' butts. So it gets down to the final play, and all I hear is him using every F word he can think of, every expletive that could come out of his mouth. He goes, those Raiders, he goes, that's why I hate them so much. They always find a way to win. And I'm thinking to myself, that's why I love these guys. It is the mystique that Stabler and the Raiders had, that they always seem to pull something out. And it's one of those games where another rule change came about because of that play. And the Raiders are chock full of those throughout their history. But, it was one of those games where, you just look at it and you just have this big smile on your face. And I think that is one of those galvanizing plays. So you are rightfully to put it in the honorable mention group, is that it galvanized Raider Nation and made the haters of the Raiders hate them much more. And that's the whole thing about the Raiders, is that there's so many haters out there, but it makes us, Raider Nation, just love them so very, very much. So thank you for that. And Bill King is absolutely the best. Thanks for those plays.
And you were around and you know that. And I think when you look at the years after the Super Bowl was won, the 76 season into 77, and then after that, the Raiders pretty much had their Super Bowl team. And early in 1978, September 10th, would the game have been more important if it was played in November or December? I think a little bit more, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it's probably one of the top 2 to 3 greatest plays in Raider history. You would agree?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And the Raiders have had a number of those go against them, like the massive deception and stuff like that. So it was great when something that wacky went with them and helped to come to a victory. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's one of the top plays, and it would have been a bigger deal later in the season because playoff matches, playoff seeding would have maybe been more apparent then. But yeah, coming early in the season, set the tone for the season and saying, you know what, with Stabler behind center, we're never out of it. And that's the message they sent.
Take care, my friend. You got it. There he is, Raider 66, participating. Again, we like participation. There's someone who listened to what we're doing today, followed the format, had a phone call about it. We're only looking to hear from a few people a day, but this is why we're doing this here. People who lived and went to these games and remember these memories. Try to interact with us on Twitter at JT the Brick or on Facebook, JT the Brick, and on YouTube as we're back up and running. We crashed. We had a lot of people in here. We crashed. I relaunched it. JT the Brick YT is if you're looking to subscribe. And please subscribe to the channel as we're building it for the camp that's coming up here. This is all gravy. We're getting new people coming in there, but we're going to be streaming live from Raiders camp out in Costa Mesa. And I think that's going to be really cool how we set that up along the way. Hour number 1 is done. When we come back, we are going to go back to a really great game in Raider history. Another September game, 2002. There aren't many modern games in the all-time great games. This is one considered one of the record-setting performances on both offense and defense in Raider history. Can't wait to get to this game coming up. You don't want to miss this as we're rocking through the greatest games of all time. These are our honorable mentions. We got another big one coming up. Oh, and Vinny Bonsignor will join us at the bottom of next hour. We are brought to you by our great friends. Modelo. Have an ice-cold Modelo on me.
That sounds all loaded, ready to go.
All right, sorry about that little drop-off there. We're back. Carla, good to see you. Thank you for letting me know and texting me we're back. Thor is hot as hell. Higgs Pig. Yep. Yeah, we got some games in here. So this is the game where the Raiders took on the Steelers in Pittsburgh, week 2. Gannon had an unbelievable game. Yeah.
Reach out to the DeCastroverde Law Firm. Let their family fight for yours.
Get ready to rev up your summer at PT's Taverns. Swing by this July for your chance to win big with our ultimate giveaway. A Can-Am Maverick X3 DS Turbo side-by-side. Earn your shot at adventure with every 50 base points when you play with your True Rewards card. Plus, join us for Vegas' best happy hour with 50% off drinks from 5 to 7 p.m. and 12 to 2 a.m. daily. Visit ptstaverns.com to find the PT's Tavern nearest you. Don't miss out on your newest adventure.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam & Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way. Because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. So if you've been hurt in a crash, call Sam & Ash, 102-303-4333. Sam & Ash, because you deserve what's right.
This is JT for the Black Hole, home of football's most notorious fans. If you're a die-hard Raider fan, this is your home. Become a member today and receive 20% off online purchases, hotel discounts for home and away games, access to members-only merchandise, and much more. All memberships are now lifetime memberships. Once a member, always a member. If you bleed silver and black, visit theblackhole.com today. That's theblackhole.com.
Finley Volvo invites you to discover the first pure electric SUV from Volvo, the XC40 Recharge. Volvo's first battery electric SUV is fully connected, featuring the first infotainment system designed and built by Google and powered by Android. With Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store built in, along with legendary Volvo safety, it's the SUV you've been waiting for. Learn more about the XC40 Recharge at FinleyVolvo.com.
This is JT from Grimaldi's New York-style coal-fired brick oven pizza. 4 locations in the Valley, Summerlin in Boca Park, on the Strip at the Palazzo, Southwest Las Vegas on Rainbow, and in Green Valley on Eastern Avenue. Grimaldi's, the best pizza I've ever had.
Are you ready to rock? Come celebrate Fremont Street Experience's free concert series, Downtown Rocks, Saturday, July 20th at 9 p.m. with 80s rock legend Sebastian Bach. Don't turn the volume up one louder as Sebastian Bach plays his top hits in fabulous downtown Las Vegas, Saturday, July 20th at 9 p.m. For more information on the free concert series, visit VegasExperience.com. We're Downtown Rocks.
Hey Jeff, how's the new job working out?
Really sucks. Terrible boss and the paycheck is even worse. I gotta get a new job.
Truck you.
Wait, what?
I'm trying not to use both these games. Have one on Thursday. Well, we got Vinny at 1:30. So I mean, if we play this thing out, stretch it out a little bit, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 sound bites. So if we stretch it out, we should be close to 1:30. Then hold on to the Gator game or whatever.
Yep.
I'm ready all day.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by Modelo Especial, the new #1 beer in the U.S.
It's time for JT the Brick.
The Raider offseason is about content that is productive.
Shotgun to a cow. Backpedaling, lobbing to the end zone, trying to get out of, makes the ground. Touchdown Raiders.
I thought Aiden O'Connell played pretty well last year. He's a quarterback who's serviceable.
Now pressure. Gets out of there. Crosby's got it from behind. Back at the 45-yard line.
There's no better player who plays with heart and passion and speed than Mad Max Crosby. Wait till you see him this upcoming season.
JT the Brick.
Dodd to throw. Spillane on the blitz, and he wraps him up and holds him up for a sack.
I love the addition of Jack Jones. All the plays he made last year will be a great addition for this team moving forward.
Intercepted down the sideline. Intercepted Jack Jones, and he walks in. Touchdown.
And now,
All right, now we're good. Let's get to it.
here's JT the Brick.
Yes, hour number 2. We're starting to do some 2-hour live streams here on YouTube. JT the Brick YT, the flagship. You can listen on the mobile app, which is fantastic. You can listen in Vegas on 9:20 a.m. and everything is up and living at lvsportsnetwork.com as the new app is there. This is our summer series. Last year, it was the greatest Raiders roster of all time, and now we're doing the top 10 games in Raider history. So what we're trying to do here is teach you about the old days of the Raiders or maybe some great games from back in the day. We're not claiming to know more than you. We are not. We're claiming to put something out there that will give you an opportunity to participate, have some entertaining sound bites from back in the day to listen to, and maybe stoke your memory of some years where you as a Raider fan remember this. You might have been watching the game with your dad or your grandfather. You might remember the game because you're at Ricky's in San Leandro, the great sports bar. You might have just remembered it because you just saw it. You remember it on SportsCenter that night. We're trying to tell stories here. Some days are easier than others. I think this is good content. We'd like to hear from you on that if you're a Raider fan. And understand that the history of the Raiders is a living history. From Mrs. Davis lighting the torch when no one was in the building, to COVID, to Vegas, to the all-time scoring record of 63 points, to games in Oakland, games in Los Angeles, and most importantly, the Super Bowls that were played at the Rose Bowl and in Tampa, New Orleans. They're clearly going to be in the top 10. I think you know that by now. But the reason why we're having the honorable mentions and we're trying to knock as many out as we can, because there's a lot of them. We just did the Holy Roller last hour on Dave Casper, picking up the ball that was thrown forward. It would be illegal today. Now it wouldn't work. Stabler throws the ball forward. And, Bobby, let's play that final call if we can one more time for those who are joining us late. I consider this 2 one-hour radio shows. We do the first hour, we reset at the top of the second hour. This is Bill King on the final call of the Holy Roller.
The outside man, that's the way they did it, and it paid off for him. 10 seconds left. Biletnikoff out. Bradshaw in the ball on the 14. Oakland trails 20-14. The crowd takes up a chant of defense. Robisky and Donizak in the back. Slot right. Branch inside. Bradshaw, saber back. Here comes the rush. He takes it. Can he throw it? He can't. The ball slips forward as loose. A wild scramble. 2 seconds on the clock. Pittsburgh grabbing the ball. It is on a fumble. Casper is recovered in the end zone. The Oakland Raiders are scored on the most seamless, unbelievable, absolutely impossible dream of a play. Stabler, while being hit, the ball squirted forward. Madden is on the field. He wants to know if it's real. They said yes. Get your big butt out of here. He does.
Incredible. One of the greatest. Now, where would you put that on the all-time play-by-play calls? Raiders have had some great play-by-play voices. Bill King, obviously, on the Mount Rushmore as the best, I believe. Most Raider fans do. That was one of his best calls. Imagine calling that play as a play-by-play voice in real time. Goodbye, check out. How do you do it? You don't know what's happening. Ball comes forward, it's out. Banaszak goes to get it, kicks it forward. Casper, everything that happens there, just amazing. Truly amazing call. And this is great, too, because Bobby has pulled this. We've gotten a little bit of help from the Raiders, which we greatly appreciate. But these are all rejoins that we're going to have going forward now. One of the great things about this project, our summer series here, is we're going to have all the sound to play, during the season. I might come out with the Holy Roller on a Tuesday, trying to get people fired up heading into the Charger game. So that's great. Now we go to our second game of the day. Let's get to that on the all-time greatest games, the rejoin, as we kick off hour number 2.
We now present the Raiders' top 10 games of all time.
And the Raiders have won the Super Bowl championship. They are the world champs.
The history of the Raiders.
He is going to get inside the 5 touchdown.
The games that helped make the Raiders one of the most recognized franchises in NFL history.
Just win, baby.
The Raiders' top 10 games of all time begins now. Honorable mention.
All right, this is a really cool honorable mention. We go back to September 15th, 2002 against Pittsburgh. And why was this game so significant? Wow, we got a lot of sound from it because of how great the team played on both offense and defense. And the score, even though the Raiders won this game 30-17, Raiders could have put up 70 in this game. It was one of the best game plans I remember in my career hosting the pre- and post-game show. I'll never forget this one because how great the Raiders were in this game. Greatest games of all time. Some are saying, is it one of the most significant? Well, I don't know, most significant, but it was during the season where the Raiders went to the Super Bowl. Did that help with that? Yes. It helped with that more so than a game where the Raiders might have only won 6 or 7 games in a season, missed the playoffs, but played in a game. Raiders took on the Steelers in Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football. Week 2 contest. Gannon and the Raiders continued what Tom Brady and the Patriots did week 1 and what the Bengals head coach, Dick LeBeau, started in week 16 of the 2001 season. And that was spread Pittsburgh's defense out as a means to neutralize its potent pass rush that recorded 55 sacks the year before. And that team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, went all the way to the title game of the AFC. The Raiders took it to the Steelers in that first appearance at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, 30-17 in this game, primetime matchup. And how about this? Rich Gannon threw for 403 yards. And Terry Kirby returned to kickoff for a touchdown. Wide receiver Hall of Famer Jerry Rice caught 11 balls for 94 yards. This was the game where Rich Gannon went 43 of 64 for 403 yards and a touchdown, broke a number of Raider passing records, including passing attempts with 64. That was 59 with Todd Marinovich back in 92, and completions with 43. If you look at that, Gannon had 35 earlier than that. 43 completions in a football game. Gannon's 43 completions were the most in regulation and only 2 short of Drew Bledsoe's 1995 NFL record, which was set in an overtime game, and all that yardage was there. Those are all Oakland records now going forward. The Raiders rushed only 14 times and threw 41 times in the first half, including 30 of their first 32 offensive plays. Did you hear what I said? Let me repeat that. In all-time great games, the Raiders threw it 41 times in the first half. 30 of the first 32 plays, the ball was in the air. The Raiders defense forced 5 turnovers, including an NFL record-tying 3 fumble recoveries by who? Rod Woodson in that game. Unbelievable. Their second run of the game resulted in a 36-yard touchdown by Charlie Garner, who wasn't touched after breaking right through the line of scrimmage in that game. The Raiders opened with a 17-7 lead with Garner's TD, a 21-yard touchdown scoring play from Gannon to Jerry Porter, and a Sebastian Janikowski 41-yard field goal. The Steelers got a field goal before halftime, making it 17-10 at intermission. All those stats that I told you, Raiders only had a touchdown lead. Janikowski hit a 45-yard field goal in the third quarter to take a 20-10 lead. Following a Raiders turnover, the Steelers cut the Raiders' lead to 20-17. But Terry Kirby answered, and the running back with the 96-yard kickoff return on the first play of the fourth quarter. And again, that pushed the lead to 10 points. Let me stop for a second at 27-17. This was a game where the Raiders had one of the greatest offensive games of all time, and they couldn't put the Steelers away. The Steelers were still that good, and a team that came off the title game here, and they were in the fight. Janikowski again hit another field goal, this time for 27 yards, to make the score 30-17, and it gave the Raiders their second win of the 2002 regular season. The score marked the second straight game that the Raiders had scored 30 points or more as the Silver and Black defeated the Seahawks 31-17 in the regular season opener. That was September 8th at the Coliseum. For the night, the great Rich Gannon completed 43 of a whopping 64 passes for 403 yards and averaged just below 6.3 yards per attempt, with the longest completion of only 34 yards. Rich Gannon went on to be named the NFL MVP of 2002 and led the Raiders to the franchise's 5th Super Bowl appearance. That is September 15th, 2002, honorable mention for one of the greatest Raider games of all time. We begin with Garner. What a great player he was on this run.
Holy cow, running play. Charlie Garner with a 10-5 touchdown.
One of the things Charlie Garner has been accused of is hitting holes too quickly. You hit it too hard, you hit it too fast. Well, Bill Callahan decided that instead of asking Charlie Garner to change, we're going to ask the offensive line to block a little more quickly. It's a quick trap up the middle. Nice job by Barry Sims, number 65, and Matt Stinchcomb, number 74, the left tackle and the left guard.
Love Joe Theismann on that call. Oh, my God. That's so good. Another Bobby Gem pulling this one out. We get some Joe Theismann color commentary on this. Look, let me just tell you this about Rod Woodson. I know Rod well, and that's because of his years with the Raiders, not with Baltimore. Those years here, it was when he came to the Raiders. I've said this about Rod Woodson before and since, is one of the greatest signings in Raider history because they got a top 25 player of all time. Not top 50, not top 100. He's inside the top 25. As a punt returner, special teams, as a safety, as a cornerback. And Woodson was an integral part of that team that year. Here's the fumble recovery.
Cordell fumbles the snap from center, and the Raiders have it.
Rod Woodson.
Rod Woodson, the former Steeler, comes up with it. Cordell lost the handle on the snap.
Wow, Rod Woodson there. If you remember this game, good time to start dialing before Vinny Bonsignore, 702-365-9200. The legendary Gannon game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Rod Woodson showed up big. Jerry Porter was a hell of a player. I mean, a gifted athlete. Very strong player there. Some people thought he lived in the...
22 yards to Jerry Porter, and that's what he gives them in this offense, the chance to get a big play.
You know, when Bobby and I look back at the highlights of this game and saw how great Gannon was in this game, I'm going to get to my thoughts on Gannon here at the end of these sound bites, but you want to talk about a decision to throw the ball and not run the ball? Where the hell's that been in Raider history since? Where the hell's that been in Raider history since 2002? I'm in 2024. where a head coach had the vision to go, no, this game plan, we're going to throw it 60 times. We have an advantage here. They're going up against Dick LeBeau, one of the greatest of all time. The only chance the Raiders had to win this game was to spread out Pittsburgh. Well, maybe that'll happen this year. Maybe a game plan for Luke Getsy will show up and say, the only way we're going to win this game is we got to spread them out. And we got to throw. We got to throw, and we got to open up, and we got to throw it 30 times in the first half. I doubt it, but it worked for the Raiders here, and it was Rich Gannon. And Rich Gannon became an MVP, and this was a big part of it. Janikowski, what a player he was, giving him a 10-point lead with this 45-yarder.
45 yards for Janikowski, hooking it and got it in there. He's been good from 41 and 45.
You know, for Janikowski, when he came in, I read the card when he got drafted. I looked at it. I knew who he was. I was sitting outside the war room. I tell that story a lot. And if there's a Raiders Hall of Fame, which there hopefully will be someday, Janikowski will be there. He made a lot of kicks, a lot of big kicks, especially early in his career. This was early in his career when the Raiders needed Janikowski to finish off games and extend the lead. He was able to do this. How about this? Cordell Stewart for Pittsburgh at the time.
Cordell has missed his last 5 passes. He's 9 out of 20. This will be the final play of the third quarter. Trying to scramble, then throws. Touchdown. Somehow he got out of Hines Ward. His second touchdown of the night.
So that's really important, that play, because the next play, the immediate next play. So that was the end of the third quarter, and Cordell made one of the best throws he made, and that's to Hines Ward, who got him back into the game with a couple of touchdowns. So this felt like a typical Raider game at the time where the Raiders were in control, but you looked up at the scoreboard and said, how are the Raiders only up by 3 with all of the performances they put into this game? But here's the way they started on the next play to start the fourth quarter.
We have a 3-point game between bitter and traditional rivals. Terry Kirby. Room to run up the middle. The kicker to beat. Now Townsend, the only one back, and Kirby. Touchdown.
There are no flags.
6 yards. Holy cow.
Well, we better get Gannon down there warming up again because he's not going to be out there for a while. Oh, look at this. Bill Cowher. You think there's steam coming out?
Look at Hines Ward. He can't believe it either.
Paul McGuire, AFL legend on the call. How great is this sound, man? This is just perfect to hear this here on a July day, to hear all this great sound from back in the day in a primetime game. Kirby puts up the Raiders 27-17. The game was in hand again. Once again, Rod Woodson coming through.
Stewart to throw on first down. Pump fake, then rifles it to Hines Ward. He fumbles. The Raiders have it. Derek Gibson.
I'm going to tell you what.
Check it, it's Woodson, the former Steeler.
Charles Woodson nailed him. When Hines Ward catches this ball, watch how hard Charles Woodson, number 24, strips him. Here comes the catch. He's on the ground. Now watch his right arm. Bang! He just knocks the ball out.
A Charles Woodson hit and a Rod Woodson fumble recovery. Raiders, September 15, 2002, honorable mention of one of the greatest performances and greatest games of all time and significant in Raider history on a Super Bowl year where the Raiders set the tone in this great game. And again, Woodson again as this thing gets put on ice.
Cordell unloads. That's going to be intercepted. And a very smart play by Woodson. He just goes to the ground. Our final score, 30-17.
And another interception for the great Rod Woodson. So I'm happy we included this game. Why did we include this game? We scoured through the greatest games of all time, and we considered this an honorable mention because the Raiders went to 2-0, okay, on their way to going to 4-0. We'll get to that coming up here in a little bit, and that start of the season. But I put an asterisk by this game, and I wanted to share that with you on why this is important going forward. Maybe we can learn from the past. Maybe we could look at this game and say, this is what the Raiders need to do this year. As I looked at the storyline and we researched this, and the Raiders had a lot of information in their archives and history of this game, Tom Brady in week 1 did the same thing to the Steelers, who went to the AFC Championship the year before. And they decided to try something, and the Raiders saw it in their game plan. Bill Callahan saw it, and they decided to follow it up and do it here again. So isn't that cool? That's what I'm concerned about this year in week 1 and 2. We play the Harbaugh brothers. Well, what gift they gave us in this great Gannon game was when the Raiders broke down film of Brady against the Steelers week 1, the Raiders saw something in their preparation and said, we're going to let Rich throw it. Now, maybe they thought they were going to let Rich throw it 40 times. He completed 43 passes, 64 yards, 64 attempts total. That never happened again. And maybe never will happen again. But the Raiders understood the game plan, and they executed it. They had a quarterback. I'll make the comparison to Gardner Minshew, right? Gardner Minshew is more than a journeyman. Okay, Gannon was a journeyman. Gardner Minshew started and played a bunch here. And Gardner Minshew, could he have a game where he could go 43 or 64? Probably not. I don't see that happening, but maybe there's a game that if Aiden's playing or Gardner Minshew's playing in this game, where the Raiders go, we found something, we saw something in a game previously against this opponent, and we're going to do the same thing. It was all about coaching. Raiders had really good coaching in that Super Bowl year. Remember, that was, when you look at the Callahan year, there were problems in the Super Bowl. They went with the Gruden playbook, and Gruden knew it. And that's a horrible way to lose the Super Bowl, by not changing the plays later on that year, by going with what John Gruden knew exactly what was going to happen. And that's part of Raider history here, no doubt. But I just think that this is an important game because the Raider defense forced 5 turnovers. Rod Woodson had one of his greatest games as a Hall of Famer. And Gannon, you can debate Gannon won the MVP in this game, even though it was week 2. He put up such a big number that the MVP voters looked at it and said, wow, hey, not only are they going to end up winning the AFC Championship, not only are they going to have a great regular season, but let's go back to week 2 and see what Rich Gannon did in that game. I remember hosting the post-game show that night, and the phones were never more packed. Fans couldn't believe it, and Raider Nation believed in week 2 that they were going to the Super Bowl. Now, my memory goes back pretty far, but it gets a little bit fuzzy. I remember that game vividly because it was a primetime game. It was back east. I wasn't at the game. I was back west hosting the post-game show, and I remember vividly hosting that show and taking calls and how passionate fans were, and that was 22 years ago. 22 years ago, and I swear to you, I remember it vividly. I remember at one point during that post-game show that this is a Super Bowl team. This is a Super Bowl team. We don't have that feeling around here now. We don't have that feeling around here now. Part of my job is to get that feeling going. And now you got to dip the show in reality. And the only way the Raiders are going to have the feeling that they can win a Super Bowl again or have a great year this year is to play a game like that. That's my big takeaway today. That's my job today, was to play those sound bites that Bobby dug out and dug them out, and to find a way to say, hey, how can we bring that forward? And I think that's my message to Luke Getsy. Find a game early in the season at the Chargers or at Baltimore where you go, let's just use this for example. Say it's the Baltimore game. Everyone's going to have the Raiders dead on arrival. Everyone, in regards to the national media. Maybe that's the game. You throw it 45 times. Maybe you look at their defense and you say their pass rush, our offensive line, or maybe that's the game where you say we're going to run it 35 times with Zeus. Find something that you believe is going to work in Henderson and use it in the game. And that, I can't find much of a better example than that, everybody. I got more games to get through. These are only our honorable mentions. Hope you enjoyed that one. Honorable mention, September 15th, 2002 versus Pittsburgh. And, man, to hear the guys in the booth at that time, friend of the show, Paul McGuire, legend, and Joe Theismann, real good friend, on the call. I did not know that was coming. I did not know that was coming there. That was fantastic overall. When we come back, let's get your reaction to one of these two games, man. We put a month of work into this. We gave you the Holy Roller and we gave you the Gannon game. Let's hear from some callers, 702-365-9200, and what those games meant to you. Brought to you by the DeCastroverde Law Group. Alex and Orlando DeCastroverde, they love this. They love this idea. Going back in Raider history, the history of the DeCastroverde Law Group, their father, who built that firm with a great legacy that you can use today. If you get into an accident and are injured, call 702-222-9999. Vinny Bonsignor joins us next.
Here's what you missed on Unnecessary Roughness.
From 313team.com. Ari Mayrob. I'm looking forward to the breakout players conversation. I'm going to throw Malcolm Kuntz's name out there. I'm going to throw Tyree Wilson's name out there. And Jacoby Myers. I think he's going for 1,000 yards this season. Those are my three options right there for the Raiders.
I like the Malcolm Kuntz shot. I think the Raiders would be smart to pay him right now before he really truly has a breakout year.
Unnecessary Roughness with your boy Q. Weekdays at 2 on Raider Nation Radio, 920 AM.
Boyd Gaming is the official and exclusive local casino partner of the Las Vegas Raiders and Allegiant Stadium. Bring your friends, have some fun, but always bet on black. Visit their 10 casinos across the valley. Don't let the game get out of hand. Please bet responsibly.
Are you shopping for healthcare coverage for a small business? Whether you're renewing a plan or shopping for a new one, the Vegas Chamber Health Plan, backed by Anthem, has many of the advantages usually reserved for a larger organization, like access to care across Nevada at lower cost. Lock in quality healthcare at budget-friendly prices through July 2024. Go to vegaschamber.com/anthem. Brought to you by the Vegas Chamber in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is JT for Grimaldi's, New York-style coal-fired brick oven pizza that you crave. 4 locations here in the Valley, Summerlin, in Boca Park, on the Strip, at the Palazzo, Southwest Las Vegas on South Rainbow Boulevard, and Green Valley on Southeastern Avenue.
Hey, Vegas, Clay Baker here with you with Zero Res. Because now that the heat is upon us, our lives, they depend on the comfort and sanctity of our homes. I'm just like you. We have to crank the air conditioning all day and night. Whatever it takes to make it livable. I'm telling you from experience, if you suffer with allergies, it's essential to have your air ducts clean as well, because they're a collection zone for bacteria, viruses, dust, and mites, all the other contaminants that trigger your respiratory and allergy issues. Zero Res knows this. Zero Res has the answer. It's the revolutionary new intensive air duct cleaning process. It's a breakthrough technology for duct cleaning. It helps immediately with your indoor allergies, while at the same time, it keeps your HVAC system running efficiently and extends the life of your system, saving you costly repairs. Call now and ask for the Clay Baker special. Book today, save $100 off your air duct cleaning. Call 702-840-3333. Go online, ZeroResLasVegas.com. Minimums apply.
This is JT for Las Vegas's premier cigar lounge, La Casa Cigars and Lounge at Tivoli Village. You're going to be blown away like I was when I stepped into their walk-in humidor. Over 500 cigar labels to choose from. Plus, they feature one of the largest whiskey, scotch, and bourbon selections anywhere in the valley, with live local entertainment 7 nights a week. Great place to watch football games. Check it out at LaCasaCigars.com.
This is Raider Nation Radio, 920 AM, the home of Raider Nation.
Boyd Gaming is the official and exclusive local casino partner of the Las Vegas Raiders and Allegiant Stadium. Bring your friends, have some fun, but always bet on black. Visit their 10 casinos across the valley. Don't let the game get out of hand. Please bet responsibly.
The Westgate Las Vegas Super Contest. The Ultimate Football Handicapping Challenge is back with over $1 million in guaranteed prizes, more ways to win, and 100% payback. 100% payback. Sign up today through September 7th. The Westgate Super Contest. The Ultimate Football Handicapping Challenge. Only at Superbook Westgate Las Vegas. All winnings are in aggregate payouts. For official rules, visit WestgateLasVegas.com.
I think we'll do the next 2 games in the honorable mention on Thursday. The game that we didn't get to today, the Bronco game, Monday night, 34-10. Look real quick. Yeah, this one.
Okay, yep, that's one I got.
And then the one after that, Tim Brown.
Tim Brown's 1,000.
Right.
Okay, no, not a problem.
You know.
We're the Castlewood Brothers, and we have your back.
brotherswin.com.
Attention plumbers, HVAC, DIYers, and construction pros. McFadden Industrial Hardware has everything you need.
You want to hold this one for tomorrow?
Yeah, I want to hold that till Thursday.
One-stop shop to get the job done. McFadden Industrial Hardware. Get in, get out, and get to work.
Welcome back to the JT
We're
the
gonna
Brick
replay
Show.
the Gannon
Brought to you
supporter.
by Grimaldi's Pizzeria, home of the famous New York style coal-fired brick oven pizza.
3rd and 10. 4-man rush. Gannon over the middle. Porter, touchdown. A strike from Gannon, 22 yards to Jerry Porter. And that's what he gives them in this offense, the chance to get a big play.
Welcome back, everybody. Raider Nation Radio. This is pretty cool. I'm watching NFL Live on ESPN, and they're doing a whole feature on Devontae from this new Netflix series on the receivers, and they're showing some really cool access. As Devontae's doing a media tour today, Bobby, it would have been a good day to get Devontae on today because he's on with ESPN. He was on with Up and Adams with Kate Adams today, and Devontae is live right now on NFL Live, and they're promoting this event that he has coming up here, this show on Netflix. Vinny Bonsignor, always thrilling to talk to him, the great insider and our teammate here on Raider Nation Radio. Vinny, I got a lot to get to. Hope the summer's going well. What do you think of this heat, considering you're kind of a new resident to the Valley here, but have been through many hot days over your years from East Coast to Los Angeles?
Yeah, and by the way, Devontae was also on with Skip Bayless and Keyshawn Johnson earlier this morning.
Ooh.
So definitely making the rounds. It's funny because Ed Graney and I were talking about this at the beginning of minicamp, and it was really hot. It was like 95 degrees, and we were laughing because your body doesn't, it takes a little while for your body to get used to the heat here. And at 95, it felt unbearable that particular day. But we both agreed in a month and a half, 95 is going to be like jacket weather here, after a steady diet of triple digit heat. So I don't know, somehow, some way we get through it and we adapt and we get it figured out. That doesn't make it any more pleasant or anything like that. But you find yourself getting through it, and you find yourself doing what you have to do as necessary, staying hydrated, using the air conditioner, strategically at your house and in your car, and somehow, some way, getting through it. And there's probably about over halfway through, I would say, hopefully, of the real intense heat. So we're going to go to California for a couple of weeks for training camp. We'll be able to dodge a little bit of a bullet there, but once we get back, it'll be closing in on September, and it'll start becoming more bearable.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think I'm embracing it more and more. It makes sense. You use the term dodging the bullet. I've been living out here a long time, and it doesn't mean any disrespect to Raider fans in Vegas or that beautiful practice facility and the indoor facility. It's just a good way to break up this heat from the players mentally, let alone physically out there. These are guys that go home afterwards to their families in this heat, and they've been dealing with the heat now on their vacations. I hope many of the guys are on vacation before they come back, but overall, it's only going to help the mental mindset and the physical capabilities of this team to play in cooler weather. Would you agree?
Yeah, and for those of us who played any level of football, let's say through high school, which is what I did, and I think your sons did, I think you did. It's wherever you are, and I was in Ventura, California, and it was pleasant. It's going to be training camp, Hell Week we used to call it back in the day, and training camp was tough. It was a mental challenge, regardless of the weather. But when you at least have decent weather, you're just battling the normal things that you have to battle, retention in terms of what you're learning and then what you're applying on the field, competing with your fellow players, whether it's on your side of the ball or the other side of the ball. It's a mental challenge. And then when you throw in here in Las Vegas the fact that there are days where it's triple digit heat out there, and when we're out on the sidelines carrying our clipboards and taking notes and shooting video and all that good stuff, it could be a challenge for us. And I always put myself in the players' shoes, and I'm like, man, imagine being out there fully padded, trying to get through the daily grind of training camp, which is hectic enough and challenging enough as it is, but then also convincing yourself throughout the course of practice that I could deal with this heat. I could deal with this heat. It's one other thing that you have to be focused on that takes you a little bit of away from the work at hand. I think in California, where I checked average high in Costa Mesa that time of year is going to be around 79, 80 degrees, as opposed to double digit or triple digits here in Las Vegas. It's one less thing that they have to worry about, which creates, I think, a more conducive place to get your work in. It doesn't mean they're going to be winning more games this year or anything like that, but I do believe that not having to battle the heat on a daily basis makes for a better work environment.
Vinny Bonsignore joins us. So before you came on, as I'm chronicling the Raiders' greatest games of all time this summer, they were in the honorable mention mode, and we went back to a game that the Raiders played against the Steelers in week 2 of 2002, and that was when they won the AFC Championship and went to the Super Bowl. And what jumps out at us, and I want to tie it into the team today, Gannon in that game was 43 of 64 for 403 yards in that game. Rod Woodson had a massive game on the defensive side. But here's what I'm thinking, Vinny, and I might be reaching, and if I am, I am. But no one thought that the Raiders could put the ball up, especially Gannon, that many times in a game, let alone complete that many passes, which was franchise record. And I just thought that they saw something in week 1 that Brady did to the Steelers. They embraced it, and they came in with a game plan where the Steelers weren't prepared for. They weren't prepared for Gannon to throw it over 30 times in the first half of that game. And that's all on coaching. The players don't make the game plan. Bill Callahan and his staff did in that game. And I would hope that Lou Getsy and the coaches here look at a particular game plan this year and they go off the grid. They do something unique. They say, hey, this is the game where we can run it with Zeus 30 times, or maybe a game we can put it in the air 40 times. Do you think they'll embrace that with this offensive coordinator?
Yeah, and Luke Getsy kind of showed that to everybody when the Raiders played in Chicago last year, and then the Bears. I mean, it was a little bit by circumstance because they had to play their backup quarterback to Justin Fields in that game. But the Bears' offense that particular day didn't look like the Bears' offense under Justin Fields, previously. So the Raiders, kind of got caught with their pants down a little bit, and that's what you have to do every once in a while. I remember talking to a defensive coordinator for an NFL team, and they were getting ready to play the Patriots the following week. So that particular week, the Patriots went out and spread it out and threw like 45 times and beat an opponent, going up and down the field, basically just going four wide receivers and picking them apart up and down the field. And so that defensive coordinator set his defense for that type of offense the following week. And lo and behold, the Patriots came out in a run set power offense and ran it like 14 straight times to start the game, 21 minutes before you could blink an eye. So you have to do that every once in a while. You have to sometimes, obviously it's about playing to your strengths and doing what you feel like your personnel allows you to do. But then you also have to take a look at the opponent and what they might be planning for, or what they might be expecting. And every once in a while, try to throw a bit of a curveball. And I think Luke Getsy has that ability.
Vinny Bonsignore joins us. What are you making out of this picture of Zamir White that everybody's talking about now? He looks like he's a defensive tackle. He's a monster. His biceps are bigger than any other running back in football. That's not even close. And how advantageous could this be to the Raiders? Could it be he looks too big, if that's a thing? Does this make you think differently of him around the goal line and the ability to break plays and run? I'm sure you saw the picture. A lot of Raider Nations talking about it.
Yeah, sometimes the angle and all of that can distort things. But suffice to say, Zamir White is a big dude, and he's a physical dude. And anyone that stood up next to him, and we have many times, he's country strong and country big. And this is a guy that I think is getting prepared to be the down in and down out back for 17 games, and then some if the Raiders are able to make the playoffs. And I think, this year, as opposed to his first couple of years in the NFL, he has to prepare, with that in mind, because he is the starting running back, and it is his job now to be the bell cow. I don't know if it's going to be 25, 30 times a game that he's running the ball, but I would expect that he's going to be hovering around 20 per game, and I think he's built like that, and I think he's preparing like that. I don't think he's quite as big as it looked like in the picture, but he is a big physical dude. And I think that's kind of perfect for what the Raiders want to do this year, hanging their hat on the run game.
Vinny, who do you think the national media is forgetting about more, the Raider quarterbacks or Zamir White?
Yeah, I think probably the running game. I think, it's easy to say, oh, they don't have Josh Jacobs anymore. That's a downgrade. When I think what we saw from Zamir White over the last 4 games of the year, I mean, it wasn't a massive sample size, but it was enough. It was 4 straight games that he was, punishing opponents. And in a couple of those games going over 100 yards. And in one of those games, sealing the deal with a long run at the end of the game when everyone else was tired and he was out there running over people and running past people. So I think it was enough of a sample size for the Raiders and those of us that cover the Raiders to think that there might be some people that are sleeping on Zamir White this year.
I agree. I think that's one of the things that when I see grades and hierarchies and top teams, no one's given the Raiders an opportunity really to run the ball consistently. I think everybody's seen Zamir White. If you didn't see him play at Georgia, then you're not doing your job. People know that he played for a big-time program. But I also think part of it has to do with Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer getting a lot of attention, which they deserve, which is not getting the quarterback's attention. It's about Brock and Big Mike, and then Alexander Madison and Zamir White aren't making it onto NFL Live. They're not on NFL Network. Questions aren't being asked today to Devontae about the running game, where maybe they would have, as you said, if Josh Jacobs was there, and maybe that position could be a sleeper group this year that could close out games, Vinny. I'm just talking about games that are 17-17 with under 4 minutes to go. If Zamir White and Christian Wilkins both make plays, Zamir runs on a 3rd and 6 and picks up a first down to end the game, or Christian Wilkins gets a strip sack to get the ball back to the offense to win the game. It's hard to account for that. If you're the NFL media, you have to see it first.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that also the offensive line and how the Raiders want to play along the offensive line. We didn't get a chance to see that during OTAs and minicamp. There's no pads, so it kind of is what it is. But I expect an extremely physical training camp in Costa Mesa, and I expect this offensive line, especially the way the Raiders envision it with Thayer Munford at right tackle, Dylan Parham at right guard, and the youngster Jackson Powers Johnson over at left guard. I think this is a big, strong, physical, athletic offensive line. It might not be getting all the headlines. It might not be a top offensive line or a top 10 NFL offensive line. But I do believe it could be a top 13, 12 offensive line in the league. And if it is, then, that plays into what you're saying with the running game, because I think that's what Antonio Pierce really wants to kind of hang his hat on, be the foundation of this offense, and then you throw off of the success that you're having running the ball. So that's another area of the team that I think that people might not be, focusing in on as much. But I think that this offensive line has a chance to, whether it's perception or narrative, change that by midway through the season. And I think people are going to see this is a better offensive line than some people expected.
Yeah, real quick one to follow up on that, Vinny. I'm hoping it's a physical camp. I've been around this team a long time, and just the camps haven't been as physical not because of the Raiders wanting it. It's just the rules around the NFL. Non-padded practices, days off, whatever you can do. I just hope, and I think it's going to happen. I don't know it to be accurate, but I'm hoping that the Raiders have more physical days that are a little bit more intense at this particular camp under Antonio Pierce to get them ready for the Harbaugh brothers in week 1 and 2. I think it's going to be important to be physically prepared to play the Charger defense and the Raider defense in those first 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I don't care what anybody says. I do believe that the Raiders in their first 4 training camps, the Vegas Raiders, played a little bit of a role in not being able to necessarily do that, not being able to be as physical as maybe John Gruden wanted him to be or Josh McDaniels wanted him to be, because you had to think about that heat and the wear and tear and just the not the danger, I shouldn't say danger or anything like that, but just it was a factor. And I think that a better, weather work environment is going to give Antonio Pierce a little bit more confidence that you can unleash a little bit more from a physical standpoint. I would expect.
Yeah, Bobby, we'll say goodbye to Vinny there. His phone's cutting out at the end, and I'll promote what Vinny's doing at La Casa with this tequila and everything that Vinny's able to do there. Vinny Bonsignore, valuable teammate here on Raider Nation Radio, and we thank him for coming on. And again, Vinny's proud partners are a part of that segment. We want to make sure they get their due here. And appreciate Vinny on that. And we'll just end it at that on the physicality of what they can do. What he said at the end was really important on John Gruden and Josh McDaniels were old, hardcore offensive coordinator head coaches. They wanted to be physical. Josh McDaniels, unfortunately, it didn't work. He didn't connect with the players the way he wanted to. He didn't. And, he had a chance to do that. And it was hard. It was much more critiques than typically. The players didn't love that. Gruden was hard on the players when he had to be. Very hard on the players when he had to be. And I think Antonio Pierce is a player's coach, a player's coach that is going to listen to his players and captains, going to listen to his coaches, Joe Philbin, former head coach, Marvin Lewis, former head coach, and they're going to put together a game plan that they believe will keep the team fit while also working them hard so they're able to play at their best. For me, this is a marathon, not a sprint, but the first 2 games are extremely important. Now, if Carolina was in the first 2 games, I'd say, okay, we're going to split. We should beat Carolina. If I can't sit in the studio and say we're going to beat Carolina, then I shouldn't be sitting in the studio. I'm not saying it's a guarantee. There's no guarantee. Carolina could be the most improved team in football this year. Could be. But my point is, the first 2 games are really important because the Raiders have a better roster than the Chargers, but they're on the road. But it's a home game on the road. Okay, so that's going to be an important game. I'm treating it like the Super Bowl. I am. You don't have to. I am. Then the game at the Ravens, no one's going to give the Raiders a chance. Nobody. I mean, nobody is going to give them a chance. And that's why I wanted to include this game as an honorable mention today, where I think the coaching could make a difference. And John Harbaugh is a good coach. He's won a Super Bowl. He'll be prepared for whatever Antonio Pierce brings to Baltimore. But maybe something a little bit quirky, a little bit different in that game could keep the Raiders in the game with an opportunity to keep Lamar Jackson on the sideline. Hey, I'll just tell you this, not from my perspective. A lot of work today for Bobby to get this show together. Give him a round of applause as we take a look at everything we've tried to do today. It's a lot of work to get these sound bites in and cover these 2 games. We got 2 new games coming up on Thursday. We're off tomorrow for AAA baseball. Okay? And then we'll come back and do this on Thursday and on Friday. JT, we want to thank all of our proud partners, and how can we not forget one of the great ones, M Resort Spa and Casino, the official resort hotel casino of the Silver and Black. All right, everybody, thank you.
Here's what you missed on Unnecessary Roughness.
It's still a lot cooler than it is outside.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's working just fine. I just can't believe how much it has to run just to keep my little thing.
What? I don't even know what you just said. I don't even know. It's a family show, man. I'm trying to keep it clean.
My small house.
I want you to put